We got to talk about it. Is Kendrick Lamar a hypocrite, or is he, is he just like us? See my little bar there with the like us. There's a lot of buzz going around about Playboi Carti and Kendrick Lamar. Of course, with Kendrick Lamar featuring a couple times on Playboi Carti's new album, especially that good credit verse is going all over the place. It's another reason why I think Kanye just jumped out and hated on him too. But y'all check out my members only video. We break that down. We uploaded that yesterday. Shout out to the members. But this whole, Cardi album and Kendrick being all over it, I told y'all before, one of the worst things that has come out of the Kendrick and the Drake beef is a division in hip hop. As far as you got to pick a side, you got to be on Drake's side, you got to be on Kendrick's side. So this is a new one. Playboi Carti, he has some past stuff on him. People love running with the whole weird case now. You have some past stuff on you. Yet Kendrick Lamar, here you are over here featured on his album. Should you be with them? Should you be standing next to them? Should you be performing with them? Should you be making money with them? Should you be on his album? All that type of those type of questions come about with stuff like this. Could it be true? Could it be reaching? Could it make you cause the pause? Could you say, wait a minute, there's a little bit of a hypocrisy here? I want to give a disclaimer. There is a lot of examples that we're going to walk through. They are not meant to cast judgment. They are not meant to point fingers. They are meant to open up a larger discussion. It's the type of discussion that at times is so sensitive and is so broad that we will revisit it. Let me make sure that disclaimer is clear. The that I'm going to bring up is to open up a discussion, not set in stone and say, this is where we are. Okay? All right. Now, this whole weird case, should Kendrick be around Cardi? Let's make sure that we're all on the same page. I had to pull it up for myself and see what people is talking about. So Cardi's old charges, right? It's all over the internet, of course. Time passes, things go away, people forget. But it comes back up when Kendrick Lamar features on your album. I guess that's how it goes, huh? Rapper Playboi Carti accused of choking pregnant girlfriend over paternity dispute. The report. Okay. Rapper Playboi Carti was arrested Tuesday for felony aggravated assault regarding an incident that took place December 20th. Carti is said to have grabbed his girlfriend by the throat and pushed her, holding her neck until she couldn't barely breathe, according to police reports obtained by TMZ. The argument was allegedly over a paternity test. The woman told police she has been in a relationship with Carti for the past 2 years, living with him since July 2022, and was 14 weeks pregnant at the time of the incident. Okay. She told police that she thought she was going to die. At one point, a witness stepped in and the woman was able to escape momentarily and get to her car before Carti attempted to pull her out. And over her mouth as she tried to use the vehicle's SOS, or put her hand over her mouth, supposedly or allegedly, as she attempted to use the vehicle's SOS feature to call police for help. When cops arrived on the scene, they say the victim had visible injuries to her neck, chest, and back. The woman said the incident began because she wanted to talk with Carti about her pregnancy, and then a conversation about a paternity test led to an argument that escalated into a physical attack. For Playboi Carti, whose real name is Jordan Carter, the arrest comes 3 years after a previous run-in with police. In April 2020, Carter was charged with illegal gun and drug possession after being pulled over in Georgia's Clayton County and caught with 3 guns and a variety of drugs, including 12 bags of marijuana, Xanax, codeine, and oxycodone. Carti's attorney, Brian Steele, there goes Brian Steele. We just saw him pull up a masterclass with Young Thug, right? So Brian Steele's been around the hip-hop community for a second, huh? Carti's attorney, Brian Steele, maintains his client is innocent of all charges. Mr. Carter was falsely accused. Steele told TMZ, pursuant to my communications with the Fulton County District Attorney's Office, this case will be dismissed without any prosecution or litigation. Now, I do believe from the stuff that I saw on the internet that is actually what happened. Not necessarily because Brian Steele went in there and worked magic again, but his then girlfriend and he, I assume, they let it go. Like you had a bad night or whatever happened. There's probably some rights and wrongs there. I wasn't there. Y'all wasn't there. I'll take some of this TMZ based articles for the premise, right? But fast forward, it seems like, they got together and it's like really? We had our night, but we doing this whole court and cop thing now. And as a couple, they probably just let it all slide, let it go. And I didn't even know. Well, I don't really know a lot about Playboi Carti's career, to be honest. I didn't follow him too tough up until recent stories and whatnot. But turned out, allegedly, from our understanding of what I found on the internet, that his BM in this whole incident is Iggy Azalea. Shit, some of y'all in the chat knew way before me. I didn't know. I don't know nothing about this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I'm out the loop. But Iggy Azalea, not only don't you pay my bills, Playboi Carti, I had to cease contact. So this is what toxic online internet relationship drama that they've had in the past as well. Iggy Azalea stopped short of a Twitter meltdown in reaction to Playboi Carti's claims in a new interview. The New Zealand-born rapper, who shares a 2-year-old son with Playboi Carti, reacted to his claims that he paid her bills and took care of her. So, yeah, and I'm not going to read down this article, but I'm just showing the backdrop of some of their relationships, some of their turmoil, some of what some people will call toxic relationships, some of them both at times bringing it into the public. He's doing interviews saying, I pay her bills. She has what TMZ called short of a Twitter meltdown and starts, exposing things on Twitter. This is what it looks like. Y'all see it. No need for me to read it. Okay, let's start to now open up the discussion that I'm talking about. And if y'all hang around to the second half of the stream, we're going to play a breakdown. We're going to keep this relevant to the title, of course, with Kendrick Lamar. That's the video breakdown of his career that we're going to check out. We're going to ask some questions and do some reaction to. But now open up the discussion. Let me talk a little bit slower and be careful. I don't want to piss off none of my fellas and none of my ladies. Domestic violence, domestic assault, domestic disputes. Let me walk. Do you know somebody who's ever been in a domestic dispute? Fellas, I'll start with the fellas in the chat. Do you know anybody that's ever been in a domestic dispute, whether it went to court, whether the police got involved, or whether there was no authority intervention at all? You just know them two got into it. You know what I'm saying? Like your boy, and his girl had a shove match, or your man's wife walked up in the club and she like, oh, what you doing here? And she slaps your boy, you know what I'm saying, which is her husband. Yeah, anybody ever see domestic disputes or been around them or heard of them? I'm asking the fellas first. Everybody's saying yes. All fellas have seen domestic disputes. How about ladies in the chat? Ladies, are y'all aware of any domestic disputes involving your home girls, your sisters, your nieces, all of that? Ladies, have y'all ever got a call from your sister or your homegirl or your friend? Girl, he did this. Or even better, has you or your homegirls ever put hands on a man? A little push, little slap, little whatever, little mush. How about a mush? Y'all women is good for a mush. Don't fucking lie to me, ladies. Y'all women is good for a mush. Y'all a mush a nigga quick. All right, so now I got all yeses from the fellas. Now when my ladies in the building, I'm getting all. Come on, Avis, really? You gonna prove my point? I don't want to cut the stream off. Like, don't take the stream from me as I'm trying to build up somewhere. Shout out to our mod. Avis comes in here and says, women are bigger bullies. Nah, I'm joking, people. That's not the point that I'm leading to. But all right, so we're all on the same page. Shout out to the members in the building. DMV Doll says, yep. So I got all yeses and from the fellas and the ladies in the chat. Now let's continue to build up. Here's the question that we start to open up Pandora's box with. Do we, as a culture and as a hip hop community, do we slightly overlook domestic violence in our culture and in hip hop? Do we? And if our answer is yes, why do we? Have we been conditioned to treat domestic violence lesser than, oh shit, I heard that King Von ran down on one of his ops and beat the shit out of him, versus, oh yeah, King Von and Asian Dollar in a relationship and he slapped the shit out of her. I'm just making stuff up. I'm just saying, are we conditioned to hear the headline of, let's say, King Von slapping Asian doll? Are we conditioned to treat that lesser than, big, oh my God, he ran down on some. Are we conditioned? Um, Shout out to the chat. We have conditioned to think it's normal. Okay. We're all in the same direction, I believe, right? Right. Dion says, shout out to the chat, says King Von actually killed a female. Allegedly. He's talking about who was that? Chikira, right? Allegedly. But she listen, that was street shit. She's all on videos and pictures or whatever, holding hammers, and she's active and their tweets back and forth. They was warring. All right. But I see what you just did there. Shout out to the chat. Let's look at if I gotta be careful here. All right. I don't need nobody clip culture to grab me up and be like, look what ARP did. This is one for discussion, people. This is one to open dialogue. And we can come back in multiple streams after this. If we have been conditioned as a culture and as a community to treat domestic violence damn near as a swept under the rug, right? Let's start to look at how that conditioning happens over time. Okay. So let's go to recent history, right? Being that the social media era and reality TV and all that is so big out there, so impactful content, the internet era, YouTube era, we normalize this, people. This is funny to us. This is attracted to us. These people get shows so that people could watch, people could enjoy, people could follow. If Blue right now, he's incarcerated right now, but if he was home right now and a video popped up of him slapping Krishan, better yet, let me give a better one. If a headline popped up of him slapping the shit out of Krishan and he co-signed it and said, yes, I did it, and she co-signed it and said, yes, he did it, nobody would really bat a fucking eye. Maybe I would act a little different if y'all saw the video, because the video be changing how we feel sometimes, just like, Cassie putting some claims on Diddy versus, no, there goes the hotel footage. We feel different, right? But these two, this is their relationship, totally accepted, totally public approved, to the point where they get deals off of their toxicity. Okay. But to be honest, they ain't no kings or queens of that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, younger generation, understand, this is sarcasm, people. Don't clip me. Understand, you guys don't own that shit. You guys don't own that title. Sarcasm. Don't clip me in a domestic violence conversation. Don't clip me. Sarcasm. Y'all don't own that. You know who the king and the queen of that shit is? Here you go. You have people that knew the Ike and Tina Turner shit before they knew them musically. Like the new generation, people that are probably born in the 2000s plus, right? After the year 2000, they probably just know, like, if you say Ike and Tina, they'd be like, oh, what that means is like a couple that be beating on each other, or a man that be beating on a woman. If I ask somebody born after 2000, name me 5 collabs between Ike and Tina, they don't know. They're just a poster for domestic violence. Ike and Tina, they got a fucking movie. The movie's a classic, by the way. Not a fucking movie. The last fight that they had in the movie in a limousine, and then they both walked into the hotel together, all bloodied and bruised and swollen. Both of them, like, yeah, we here to check in. And they looking at both of them like, what the fuck? This can't be life. This can't be real. This can't be normal. Okay. This is the history of domestic violence in front of us, and it's been watered down. Here is a recent king, though, of how people model it as a poster, right? I think you guys know where I'm going. Rihanna and Chris Brown. Now, nobody let Chris Brown off the hook back then. Nobody said that this was Krishan and Blueface back then. Let's create the separation. We didn't say that back then. We said, wait a minute. We see the pictures of Rihanna and her face. That's wrong. That's fucked up. right? But after that, if you're Rihanna's fan base, if you're a woman, you know what you see? You see this billionaire status Rihanna, and you see her fan base. They're still okay with Chris Brown. Chris Brown is still today's Michael Jackson, right? This era's Michael Jackson, right? Chris Brown is okay. He's doing way more than most. And stuff like this right here loans to it.
It's pretty gangster, right? Here, you try it. Okay. Sometimes I eat my feelings and I blame it on my therapist. That's good. Keep going. Yeah. It's pretty gangster, right? Here, you try it. Okay. Sometimes I eat my feelings and I blame it on my therapist. That's good. Keep going. Yeah.
Now, some people say that head rub at the end was one of those kind of like, hey, man, call me. I'm not saying that that's true, people. I'm just trying to keep this as light as possible because this is a serious topic. But so that happens, and you got the whole world of Hollywood still watching you guys, especially when you're in the same room. And there goes Chris, and hugs and rubs and acknowledgement, and it looks like a nice moment. You know what I'm saying? And shout out to them for getting past that situation. But this is the depictions, and these are the examples in our culture. Okay. Now, when you talk about domestic violence and rappers, the history of it leaves us no shortage of examples, right? Now let's just start to walk through some of the ones that poked out in our minds.
In his track, he said that you cheated on him with a football player.
I thought wise old girl sucking on Derek Ward for.
Have you ever cheated on Joe? Or
I've never cheated on him. I've been completely loyal to him, nothing but good to him, the entire relationship.
in the track, in the audio, he also talks about you having a miscarriage.
The first you resemble my twin. Fast forward, you gave me identical twins, but then you lost it. Honestly, that murked my soul.
Did you really have a miscarriage?
Yes, I did. I had a miscarriage as a result of some actions that he decided to take.
So what were those actions?
I mean, we were having an argument. We were having an argument about inappropriate behavior on Twitter.
On Twitter. Yo, this one right here. What comedian was that? That was the was that D-Ray? D-Ray was making light of it. He was saying, like, I know how to fight, and that car started. They was going back and forth, and Rihanna turns to Chris and says, "You can't dance," and that nigga started crumping and wilding and shit. It's not supposed to be funny. Blame D-Ray and blame the chat and blame me for knowing what the hell the chat is talking about. Chat saying, "Look at this fake ass outrage." Shout out to Kelson and our members. Says, "Salute ARP. What's good, chat?" Yes, we here. So, you know, and now there was like a 5-part series, that Ordinary Love or whatever by Joe that he dropped. Their whole domestic and problems and miscarriage or whatever, and you cheat, all of that public songs, Twitter, interviews, right? They gave that to the public. It continues as far as like just it being in our face, right? We're not going to act brand new. Tyga, rapper Tyga arrested for felony domestic violence in LA. What was this? This was reported October 2021. Tyga was arrested Tuesday morning on suspicion of felony domestic violence in Hollywood. Authorities say the 31-year-old rapper whose real name, Michael Stevenson, turned himself in at LAPD's Hollywood station, and his bail was set at $50,000. The Los Angeles Police Department said the alleged indictment occurred Monday, but they did not release any other details. The arrest comes one day after Tyga's ex-girlfriend shared a series of photos of herself with a black eye on her Instagram account. Okay. That was Tyga's situation. The Game had one, right? Here goes one for The Game. The Game investigated for domestic violence. This article looks like it was reported in April 2014. The Game is now a suspect in a felony domestic dispute investigation after allegedly beating up his fiance. Law enforcement sources tell TMZ. According to our sources, The Game's fiance, Tiffany, filed a police report that report last weekend following March 19th indictment during which she claims Game attacked her. Okay. The Game, Tyga, huge artist. We did Chris Brown and Rihanna. It doesn't get too much bigger in the industry than that. We have some mega titans too, Rihanna's a mega titan, Chris Brown. But when I say mega titan, I'm talking about all the accolades, respect, and love in the world, right? This one is very, very well known, as far as the allegations and all the back and forth. Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre has long been accused of violence against women. Why is he still being rewarded? That is a question in the title here. Wow. I ended Grammys night, like most people in my network, feeling like the most powerful woman in the industry was once again denied Grammy's biggest honor, yada, yada, yada. A wild Grammy performance. Well, we don't need to get into all of that stuff, but yeah, we know the story and the backdrop of Dr. Dre. I'll bring one more up here. This is one of hip hop music's goats, super duper Mount Rushmore goats, right? Who am I gonna bring up? We brought up Rihanna, we brought up Chris Brown, we brought up Tyga, we brought up Game, we brought up Dr. Dre, we brought up all of this shit. When I say I still have another super Mount Rushmore goat, like who is it? Is it the Jay-Z Mush video? No, not that. I'm just throwing the little ones in between, right? No, it's not that. It's this one, right? Rest in peace. Tupac accuser Ayanna Jackson gives disturbing account of 1993 R. So whether we're talking about assault or sexual assault, etc., everybody knows that, the R allegations, and Pac was convicted, right? Didn't Pac serve time for it? He went to jail behind it, right? Look at y'all in the chat. You got M, okay. You got Tretch and Pepper in the chat. Biggie had something. Okay. I forget what Biggie had, but it's a lot, people. It's a lot. And if you want to continue to go down Pandora or open up Pandora's box, as far as does our culture and does our community forgive, sweep under the rug, forget, dumb down domestic violence and domestic disputes, whether it's co-signed and enjoyed as entertainment for the toxic level of relationship on TV like Blueface and Krishan, or Ike and Tina, and how people reference it, or whether it's, our allegations on like Tupac and possibly going to jail for it and still coming home and being treated no different, right? like, is it us? Is it the celebrity factor there of, we don't treat celebrities like we treat a regular average Joe on it? What's the answer there? I just want to open up the discussion, right? Another small quick reference or example is the fact that there's a lot of people that still will listen to R. Kelly music. Now, I know that's also involving minors and stuff, but all of this creates the backdrop of who we are as individuals, what our community does and how we carry it, and what the music industry and the music culture and how we treat this stuff going forward. The whole chat listens to Rihanna and Chris Brown and The Game and Tyga, and Dr. Dre can come up on stage during the pop-out concert and we're, Dr. Dre, he's the one that said, I see dead people. But they all have all of this stuff in their backdrop. They all do, right? And this is where I get annoyed at Kendrick Lamar as a hypocrite, or is he just like us? So is he just like us for watering down or possibly ignoring or sweeping under the rug at times somebody's past situations? The answer is yes. He's just like the rest of us. Now, as I answer the title, I'm trying to show y'all that, let's say, morality wise, you in the chat tell yourself, Playboi Carti has those charges on him. or has those allegations on him, which they say didn't even go to court, right? Him and Iggy continued on to just, I guess, be parents together. Maybe they still don't like each other. Maybe they have issues. Who knows? But he never got convicted of that, right? But let's say hypothetically they really did have a domestic dispute that night, right? Regardless of the intricate details, because we wasn't there. But let's say something really went down. Is Kendrick Lamar obligated because of those allegations and because of that report to say, I will never feature with you? I will never work. Is he obligated to do that? If he is, then we are all also obligated to totally shut down, ignore, and step away from every single person that I just brought up. These are not about justifications. It's about how we navigate these type of situations. When things pass your moral compass at a certain level or hit close to home on a certain level, that's where you see people do these separations. But Playboi Carti and Iggy Azalea having a shitty night as future parents at the time, arguing and fussing or fighting over a domestic dispute, even if he did put hands on her, because I'm not going to dumb it down, even if he put hands on her and she had to try to run and get in the car and try to escape and all that type of shit, right? I would take the position that we could never justify that if that's what happened. You can never justify it. But you want to hope, similar to Chris Brown and Rihanna, that they learned their lessons as young adults. They came back together. They realized, like, this isn't the way. He was it. If you're going to let Chris Brown grow from it, you got to let Playboi Carti grow from it, right? If people, this is where these people that go wild and say, wait, Kendrick did a feature with somebody that has a weird case. I'm going to bring up all that shit and say, keep the same energy then. Go call out anybody that features with Chris Brown, with Tyga, with Game, with Pac after he came out of jail, with Dre, anybody that takes a Dre beat. If you get into the booth with Dre after his situation, keep the same energy, people. Keep the same energy. So now let's answer the first half of the title. Is Kendrick a hypocrite? Well, shout out to Rapaholics. Rapaholics does, once again, an amazing job putting together these videos, these breakdowns. And the reason why I'm going to play this in the background for us is because it walks through Kendrick Lamar's career as it relates to him being a hypocrite. And it reminds us who he is, what he said, and the places and positions that he stood in, right? So we already answered the second half of the title. Let's now continue to chop down the first half of the title, okay? Shout out to Rapaholics once again. Y'all make sure y'all subscribe to him. Amazing content.
So, Lobbies and Gentlegrams, Kendrick Lamar has 3 songs on the new Playboi Carti album. Playboi Carti in 2022 was charged with felony aggravated assault for allegedly getting in a physical altercation with his pregnant girlfriend. Although Carti's attorney did say that Carti was falsely accused, many Drake fans have pointed to the fact that Kendrick accused Drake of manipulating and abusing women, and because of that, he is a hypocrite for collaborating with Carti. So, is Kendrick Lamar a hypocrite? Depending on how you look at it, you could say yes or no. We will look at both sides of the coin, but we can come to one objective truth. Is it a problem that Kendrick is collaborating with Carti? The answer is objectively no. Why? Because A, Kendrick is not accused of doing these crimes. His collaborators are. And B, in no universe is Kendrick endorsing, encouraging, or downplaying the severity of the crimes that his collaborators are accused of. Obviously, throughout a lot of his music, he shines a light on attempting to avoid these bad behaviors and the constant internal struggle to live on a righteous path. This was one of the core themes of his diss songs against Drake, which is why Drake fans are now using it as a way to paint him as a hypocrite. They're not concerned with the crime, they're concerned with the messenger. But obviously, just like Drake misinterpreting the lyrics of Mother I Sober, the people who are most loud in accusing Kendrick of being a hypocrite have obviously failed to understand or even pay attention to the message in all of Kendrick's music. So that's what this video will aim to do. We'll be going through all of Kendrick's albums, including his actions after the beef, because it all provides some clarity on the question of, is Kendrick wrong or hypocritical for collaborating with Playboi Carti? Now, I gave you the objective answer on whether or not this was a problem, right? Kendrick wasn't accused of these crimes. Kendrick's not encouraging these crimes. So him collaborating with an artist with a quote unquote weird case, but making music completely unrelated to the horrible actions within that case is not necessarily problematic. But is it hypocritical? Well, depending on your subjective perspective, you could say yes or no. Drake fans will say it's hypocritical for many reasons. Kendrick called Drake out for running to Atlanta for a few dollars. Then he goes on to run to Atlanta to cook up #1 hits with Future in order to diss Drake. and now collaborating with another ATL native, Playboi Carti. In Kendrick's diss songs,
I gotta pause that one. Like anybody that's out there reaching with that one, you're better off using the ammo of the case or the allegations or the domestic situation that Playboi Carti had and using that to tie in. Like using like, oh my goodness, Kendrick worked with an Atlanta artist. It was, did you fools listen to music or did you just skim through it? Kendrick never said if you work with an Atlanta artist, you are this. He said no, Drake is, because of the way Drake is cultured, the reason because who he really is, and that he's running to them for a cultured salvation. He's pillaging off of the land, so to speak, as this Jewish Canadian kid. That's Kendrick. Do you fools listen to music or do you just skim through it? Not that if anybody collaborates with an Atlanta artist, oh my God. Rapperholics, keep talking to them, please.
he's talking about Drake keeping people in his entourage with weird cases or manipulating and abusing women himself, but now he's collaborating with a rapper who has a weird case himself. They would tell you that the outrage about these issues is fake because he shines lights on it when it benefits himself, using it as a criticism within his diss song, but then turns a blind eye to it when it also benefits himself, ignoring Carti or Future's mistreatment of women in order to cook up a #1 song. Where does Kendrick truly stand on these issues? That's one side of the subjective coin, but then a Kendrick fan will tell you there's a big difference between Drake collaborating with Atlanta artists and Kendrick doing the same. When Kendrick does it, he's not adopting their sound, their lingo, their culture. He's integrating his own artistry into their world. He's not attaching himself to a heritage he's not a part of. Instead, he's collaborating with an artist like Future to shake up the game and cause a ripple effect, which then leads him to drop his most West Coast sounding music ever with Not Like Us or GN.
And to be honest, hip hop culture being originally rooted in Black culture, right? He's also continuing on that cultural divide. That was one of the pieces on the chessboard of Kendrick, the cultural divide, right? Showing that, or trying to show that and paint a picture of Drake of you not like us, you not one of us, like you really are this Jewish, and it's not wrong with being Jewish, and you could be Jewish and be in love with hip hop and be a part of hip hop culture, people. All right, stay with my point. But you are this Jewish Canadian that is acting as if you really are cultured, right? That's why was it the end of Euphoria or 616, whichever? No, it was Euphoria, right? It's the cultural divide attack that Kendrick is using. We don't want to hear you say nigga no more. Even though Drake has a Black father, he's creating the cultural divide, saying that you're not supposed to say the word nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like, keep up, people. Do you fools listen to music or do you just skim through it? You got to pay attention before y'all reach all over the place with some of this shit.
DNX and bring the spotlight back from Atlanta down to his hometown, whereas Drake will use Atlanta sound to simply benefit himself. A Kendrick fan might also tell you there's a massive difference between the accusations Kendrick made about Drake, for example, trafficking or being a PDF, versus domestic abuse. There's much different levels of severity, and most importantly, I believe a Kendrick fan would tell you Kendrick can be inspired by and collaborate with any artist that he feels like for the greater good of hip-hop, because most importantly, he's made it known that he's not your savior. And I think that's the most crucial element to answer the question of, is Kendrick a hypocrite for doing these Carti collaborations? Again, an answer that can very easily be found throughout the subject matter within his music. I think a lot of people who are calling Kendrick a hypocrite will turn to albums like Mr. Morale to point at Kendrick opening up about his flaws and obviously trying to work on them, to say that the realizations he might have made in therapy are not necessarily implemented in his actions today. And that album is going to play a very crucial role in answering this question. But before we do that, I think we got to take it all the way back to Good Kid.
You know what I just realized, people? Horns. The Drake stands and the Drake groupies and the people that just feel the need to go run out into the world and find some ammunition to bring back to Drake. You know what I realized? Y'all missed the mark just as much as your God, your sixth God. Y'all missed the mark just as much as him. It's like when Drake misses the mark by saying things like trying to set the slaves free. Like, you're missing the mark, homie. Like, y'all just missed the fucking mark. And hold on, bring this piece back. Bring this that couple seconds back of that point from Rapperholics.
His flaws and obviously trying to work on them, to say that the realizations he might have made in therapy are not necessarily implemented in his actions today. And that album is going to play a very crucial role in answering this question. But before we do that, I think we got to take it all the way back to Good Kid, Mad City. Good Kid, Mad City is structured as a cinematic coming of age story. Instead of positioning himself as holier than thou, Kendrick invites us into his world, a world where every decision is laden with consequence. The album's narrative follows a young Kendrick who is both a product and a critic of his environment, highlighting how systematic forces and familial legacies weigh heavily on his choices. The intro track, Shireen, Master Splinter's daughter, introduces the listener to the temptations and dangers of Kendrick's neighborhood in Compton. He shows how easily it is to get involved in risky behavior, and instead of celebrating crime, the song warns us about how appealing but dangerous that lifestyle can be. Then on B Don't Kill My Vibe, Kendrick explores the tension between authenticity and the pressures of his surroundings. The refrain isn't a boast of superiority, but a plea to maintain his inner peace amid chaos. It shows a young artist who's aware of the seductive nature of street life, its promise of quick rewards and instant recognition, while simultaneously yearning to rise above it without casting judgment on those still caught in its grip. Then Backseat Freestyle is perhaps the most raw depiction of youthful bravado. On the surface, its aggressive tone and boast of power might seem to celebrate a gangster persona.
Shout out to the chat. Like I understand this one. That weird case lyric is why people may call him a hypocrite. It's different than what Drake, because Baca is his homie and around, but a fan will try to connect it for that project. That's another conversation. Like, we already opened up a can of worms with the whole, do we water down domestic violence and accept it with some of our biggest artists and legends and goats of all time, right? That's a whole nother topic. I just want to leave that there and go ahead and carry and continue the thought and the discussion. But that one right here that you just put up here from the chat, that's another question, right? Which is, okay, cool. What's the degree of separation or affiliation that makes you feel uncomfortable when you see somebody going against moral code? For example, if I'm posting, can't wait till Baca gets home, or Baca's home and all of this, and that's your man and that's your homie, and you sign him to the OVO imprint and all this type of stuff. And, you know, it's a weird case. Why is he around? This is right next to you. This is your bodyguard or your homie or your friend. Versus Kendrick gets a beat and a verse sent to him from Playboi Carti, and they agree to do some work together and feature on each other's albums. And he puts a verse on it and he sends it back. Now, it doesn't mean like I'm supposed to do that if I feel like you're not a person that I identify with or rock with, right? But we're gonna treat that the same. My homie and my friend, I'm the one that paid for his court orders, versus, you know, industry artists rubbing shoulders and featuring together. Y'all got it if so.
Persona, however, within the album's context, it functions as a counterpoint to Kendrick's internal conflict. The hyperbolic swagger is less of an endorsement of crime rather than a coping mechanism, a way to mask the vulnerability of a kid feeling pressured by the expectations and realities of his environment. Then on Money Trees, Kendrick reflects on the allure of fast,
which is exactly why people running out and saying, guess what I found out on Kendrick, or guess what I found on Drake. Both directions. I look at both sides as like, y'all do too much. Both sides. Too much, man. Too much. It was a fucking battle. Absolutely agree.
Money, a theme that resonates deeply within the communities where opportunities are scarce. He examines how the dream of wealth is entangled with the harsh realities of criminal life. By juxtaposing the seductive promise of easy money with the inevitable consequences, Kendrick underscores the tragic trade-offs faced by many young people within his community. Then, on what's arguably the emotional centerpiece of the album, Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst, the track dives into the personal cost of living in a cycle of violence and loss. Kendrick adopts multiple voices, narrating the story of friends and acquaintances who fell prey to the system. Here, the album's reflective tone is unmistakable. Rather than preaching moral superiority, Kendrick mourns the lives lost and the paths not taken. It's a poignant reminder that the very choices he wrestled with were the ones that many around him, perhaps even those in his family, had struggled with for generations. He spoke about this song in an interview with Big Boy, saying, "Before I became this person with a mature aspect on life, it was a dark place I came from, a place of negativity, a place of being unruly." And if we look deeper into Kendrick's music, even long before Good Kid, Mad City, you could see that one of the main reasons why Kendrick didn't end up down this path of violence was due to his father's advice and the active role that his father played within his life. On the song Kendrick Lamar, where Kendrick drops the stage name K. and replaces it for his name Kendrick Lamar, he emphasizes, "I'm just a good kid from Compton that want to rap, weighing my options, pick up a Bible or a strap. I never took a man's life, never sold any crack. All I did was try to keep my city on the map. But this monkey on..."
Yo, when you listen to this breakdown by Rapaholics, Kendrick really, he's continued to paint a picture of himself that I am not perfect. I make these mistakes. I messed up over here. I did this. He's never painted himself as holier than thou or like some angel. Like, where does that come from? Where does that come from? You know what I'm saying? Like he starts out euphoria like that. He's trying to tell Drake and you Drake, you know, groupies, He says, fabricating stories on the family front because y'all heard Mr. Morale. Like you gotta, even when he moves a piece, it's like y'all give Kendrick two moves on the chessboard and Drake only one, because y'all jump out and there's already the move to counter and be like, wait a minute, I see what just happened there. Now let me counter. But instead, Kendrick moves his piece, then you come back and say shit like, you know, always trying to rap like you're trying to get the slaves free. Motherfucker, I just said I don't want to hear you say nigga no more. I'm creating cultural divide. You need to fight that. But then you come back and say, get the slaves free, fabricating stories on the family front because you heard Mr. Morale. Like, I'm moving 3 pieces at a time before you move once. Like, the intelligence level is also apparent between the two. Sorry to say, you could just watch it on the battlegrounds of what they've showed us.
My back, y'all don't want me to win. I'm trying to follow my dreams. You want me to follow trends. So just to get $1, will I sell my soul? I looked the devil in the eye and I told him hell no. And while early on in his career, he was confident that he could fight off the devilish temptations, his real fame came from the Good Kid, Mad City album, where he opened up about the internal battle of him fighting the temptation of entering down a life of crime and violence. But once that album got him into a position where he was financially secure, had the fame, the acclaim, etc., we'd see on his next album, To Pimp a Butterfly, that the same guy who just a few years prior, before the fame, rapped, just to get $1, will I sell my soul? I looked the devil in his eye and told him hell no. That same guy who now had that $1 was making songs like How Much a Dollar Cost and reflecting on the temptations of Lucy, aka Lucifer. So you can see already, before we dive deeper, that there's been this constant battle between right and wrong that stems all the way back to Kendrick's childhood and his upbringing. But before we get deeper into the flaws, inconsistencies, and internal battles later on in his career, I think it's important to emphasize again that the reason Kendrick didn't suffer the same fate as many of the people around him growing up within Compton was mainly thanks to his strong support system, most notably the active presence of his father within his life. Kendrick's father, Kenny Duckworth, did allegedly have a criminal past of his own, being affiliated with the Gangster Disciples, a Chicago-based gang, before relocating to Compton in 1984 to escape that life. Despite this, Compton presented its own challenges, with gang culture very prevalent, and Kenny worked in manual labor jobs such as KFC to provide for the family and help steer his son Kendrick away from a life of crime. Kendrick touched on this in a 2017 Rolling Stone interview where he said, when you see kids doing things that the world calls harmful or a threat, it's because they don't know how to deal with their emotions. When you have a father in your life, you do something, he'll look at you and say, what the F are you doing? Putting you in your place, making you feel this small. That was a privilege for me. My peers, their mothers and grandmothers may have taught them love and care, but they couldn't teach them that. And just like his father's efforts to break the cycle, those themes are mirrored all throughout Kendrick's music, where he navigates similar temptations, but constantly strives for a different path. We see these concepts explored deeper after Good Kid, Mad City, once Kendrick achieves fame and now has the influence to potentially break cycles and make real change within society. To Pimp a Butterfly is a profound exploration of internal struggles, societal pressures, and personal transformation. Throughout the album, Kendrick is constantly delving into themes of self-doubt, temptation, and the complexities of fame, and highlighting his personal journey from despair to self-acceptance. On a song like You, Kendrick is bearing his self-loathing, depression, and feelings of worthlessness, questioning his own value and battling the weight of guilt, especially as he feels pressured by the expectations placed on him by both his community and his success. This raw introspection is then greatly contrasted by the uplifting message of the song I. But in between that, you have songs like How Much a Dollar Cost, where Kendrick is facing his own greed and moral shortcomings, where he's forced to confront how his own selfish desires and materialism might be blinding him to the true cost of his actions. And if you wanted more proof that Kendrick is, just like every other human, a walking contradiction, he calls himself on The Black of the Berry the biggest hypocrite of 2015. This self-label isn't about boasting.
What did Kendrick call himself on his own album? You see my title. Kendrick Lamar is a hypocrite, or is he just like us? Kendrick Lamar has been telling us for years, he's just like us.
In righteousness, it's a raw admission of contradiction. Despite his messages of social uplift and change, he's caught in the very traps that he warns others about. He struggles with the paradox of benefiting from and simultaneously condemning the corrupt systems that lure people with promises of wealth, fame, and power. And throughout the album, you have this figure who Kendrick refers to as Lucy. Lucy is widely interpreted as a personification of various temptations, whether it's drugs, lust, greed, or the seductive nature of the music industry itself. On a song like For Free, Lucy's voice mocks and tempts Kendrick, representing the allure that could lead him astray. Then, on the interlude For Sale, Lucy offers promises of wealth and pleasure, challenging Kendrick and highlighting the internal tug-of-war between his aspirations and his values. Lucy embodies the negative cycles, self-indulgence, materialism, and moral compromise. And this isn't just within Kendrick, this is what he sees everywhere throughout society. By repeatedly referencing Lucy, he shows that the same forces which have tempted him are the same ones that have kept many others trapped in destructive patterns. And Kendrick isn't claiming he's above these forces. He's acknowledging that even he is vulnerable to the temptations of Lucy. The negative cycles of greed, self-indulgence, and hypocrisy that Kendrick is struggling with internally are also universal. Rather than elevating himself above his peers, To Pimp a Butterfly reflects the messy human reality of trying to rise above a system that continuously challenges one's integrity. And while To Pimp a Butterfly depicted Kendrick attempting to make change on a macro scale based on the clarity he received throughout his childhood from his father, a clarity that many of his peers didn't have, a clarity and positive change he was trying to bring onto the world, by Mr. Morale, Kendrick reflected how those same forces had shaped his own personal trauma, and that before he was capable of healing the world, he had to work on first healing himself. On To Pimp a Butterfly, Kendrick was battling Lucy, but by Mr. Morale, Kendrick was battling himself. The album begins with a sample stating, "You are the product of a curse that came from generation to generation, and it's been passed down like a family heirloom, and it's time for you to break the cycle." And throughout his entire career, the only way that Kendrick has known how to break the cycle is through his music. His music was the vehicle that brought him and his family out of their neighborhood in Compton and into a life of financial freedom, while all his music has also depicted his constant battle in attempting to save himself, save his family, and through his reflections and growth, all the trials and tribulations expressed within his music, Kendrick has also hoped to save his fans and his people, helping them overcome racial, generational, and personal trauma through the messaging within his music. This developed...
People, we 13 minutes into this video out of 28 minutes. I'm gonna leave it there. Y'all go ahead and I'll head over to the Rapaholics channel. Subscribe, give them a like as well if you want to watch the remainder of that video. If I was in my Kanye bag, I would say, man, I'm so jealous that Kendrick is from the West Coast, man. He's from Cali, man. I wish he was a New Yorker, man. He's so fucking good, man. Like, damn, why can't he be a New Yorker? It's jokes. I'm joking. Yo, there you have it. I think that was an interesting walk. I'm not here to combat all of the narratives that follow Kendrick. That's not what I'm here for. You know, like I'll see some of your favorite bloggers, they'll get on stream and I could see how motivated and how important it is for them to like do topics like, oh, Kendrick's show or concert isn't sold out. You're never going to see me that level. If Kendrick falls, I will be right here to talk about it. If Drake jumps up, I'll be right here to talk about it, right? I'll never get to that level of fandom or like, it's crazy because I call people out that do that. I'll be on my streams like, come on, Maul, like, come on back, man. Come on, we need you. Like, stop this shit, right? But these narratives and the battle will continue to interest me. And over here on this podcast, one thing that we'll do is we'll take those little stupid, frivolous narratives, right? Like, hey, I think he's a hypocrite because he just featured on Playboi Carti's album. That little simplistic, stupid, you know, narrative that people are trying to run back to their side of the war with. We'll come over here, though. We'll make it an interesting discussion. We'll walk through domestic violence, our history. We'll open up even a bigger discussion and a bigger question that I didn't even try to give y'all an answer to. Y'all go back through the stream. Y'all can walk around with that one for a day or two if y'all want. We could revisit it if y'all want. Drop a comment. Let me know. In the meantime, also check out yesterday's video that I dropped. There was a members exclusive about my favorite rapper, Kanye West, right? If you know this channel, you know that that's pure sarcasm, right? And I will be getting some more members only footage up there for y'all as well. The exclusive, shout out to the whole people that are here live, but I gotta get into my zone again for the members only content. I'm gonna try to get maybe something up there again today, if not latest tomorrow, another members only exclusive. So stay tuned, people. Enjoy the rest of y'all morning, but interesting stream, interesting topic. We'll be here.
Don't confuse silence with work ethic. I'm a boss making decisions, my first fetish. The verse cherished is perfect, that's a reverse blemish. I drop it, connected to block, learn Tetris.
This is the Sorry True Podcast. Welcome to the house of. And shout out to the members.
Without, I think still got a gun.